The letter was sitting on my doormat like a coiled snake waiting to strike. Official HOA stationery, typed, signed, sealed, with the kind of passive-aggressive authority that only comes from someone who peaked in middle school and never recovered. Effective immediately. Your dog is banned from utilizing community park facilities due to excessive noise complaints and disruptive behavior. I read it 3 times. Then I looked down at Biscuit, my 8-year-old golden retriever who was currently asleep on his back, paws in the air, snoring like a broken lawnmower. Disruptive behavior. This dog's most criminal activity was stealing socks and napping in sunbeams. But I knew exactly who was behind this. Karen, the neighborhood's self-appointed sheriff of pettiness. Well, make sure you like and subscribe for your top-notch HOA drama. Now, before we dive in deeply, let us know in the comments what country or which city you're watching this story from. We'd love to know how far this story travels. Karen had been a thorn in my side since the day I moved in. You know the type. The woman who measures your grass with a ruler, who times how long your visitors stay parked on the street, who treats the HOA bylaws like they're the 10 Commandments carved in stone by her personal deity. She walked around the neighborhood with a clipboard and a permanent scowl, like she was auditing everyone's existence for compliance violations. I'd managed to stay off her radar for the most part, kept my lawn trimmed, painted my mailbox the approved shade of boring, smiled and waved even when she glared at me like I'd personally offended her ancestors. But apparently, peace was never an option. Not when Karen had decided that Biscuit, the laziest, friendliest dog in a 5-mile radius, was now public enemy number 1. It started 3 weeks earlier. I'd been at the community park, the one amenity in this overpriced neighborhood that actually justified the ridiculous HOA fees we paid every month. Biscuit was doing his usual routine, which consisted of waddling around, sniffing exactly 3 blades of grass, and then lying down in the shade, like he'd just completed a marathon. He barked maybe twice, at a squirrel that was, frankly, asking for it by existing so provocatively near his territory. That's when Karen materialized out of nowhere, phone already recording, like she'd been waiting in the bushes for this exact moment. "Your animal is disturbing the peace," she announced, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. I looked around. The park was empty except for us. No peace to disturb unless you counted the birds, and honestly, they were louder than Biscuit. "He barked twice," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "At a squirrel." Karen's eyes narrowed like I'd just confessed to a felony. "The rules clearly state that excessive barking is prohibited in community spaces. I'm documenting this." She waved her phone at me like it was a weapon. Biscuit, completely oblivious to being framed as a menace to society, rolled over and presented his belly for scratches. I should have known then that this wasn't over. Karen didn't document things for fun. She documented things the way serial killers collect trophies. 2 days later, another encounter. This time, I wasn't even at the park. I was walking Biscuit past it, on the sidewalk, which last time I checked was still public property. Karen practically sprinted out of her house. "He cannot be near park property," she declared, positioning herself between us and the fence, like a deranged security guard. "He's on the sidewalk." "Karen, the sidewalk is within 50 feet of park boundaries. That's a violation." I stared at her. Biscuit stared at her. Even a passing jogger slowed down to stare at her, because the sheer audacity of that statement required witnesses. "You're making this up," I said. "Check the bylaws. Section 7. Paragraph 4, subsection B." She snapped back without missing a beat. The woman had memorized HOA bylaws like they were Shakespeare, which would have been impressive if it wasn't so deeply disturbing. That's when the complaints started flooding in. Apparently, Biscuit was now responsible for every barking dog in a 3-block radius. Anonymous noise complaints. Letters about aggressive behavior from a dog who once got scared of a paper bag blowing in the wind. Emails to the HOA board with timestamps and detailed logs that Karen had clearly been compiling like she was building a legal case for the prosecution. And then came the ban letter. Official, binding, enforced by the full weight of Karen's vindictive crusade against a senior citizen dog whose idea of excitement was a new flavor of dental chew. I sat at my kitchen table that night, Biscuit's head resting on my lap, and something inside me snapped. Not in an angry way. In a strategic way. Karen wanted to play HOA enforcer. Fine, let's see how she liked living under the microscope. She was so eager to point at everyone else. I spent the next week doing something I never thought I'd waste time on. I read the entire HOA rule, all 73 pages of mind-numbing bureaucratic nonsense written by people who clearly had never experienced joy, and buried in that mountain of regulations, I found gold. Section 12, paragraph 9, subsection F. All exterior home modifications, including but not limited to paint colors, decorative items, and structural changes, must be submitted for board approval, minimum 30 days prior to installation. I walked past Karen's house the next morning, really looked at it for the first time, and there it was, a decorative garden gnome collection that had definitely not been there when I moved in 6 months ago. 12 gnomes, unauthorized gnomes, unapproved gnomes, gnomes that violated Section 12, Paragraph 9. Subsection F. I took photos, documented times, built my case exactly the way Karen had taught me. Then I submitted a formal complaint to the HOA board. Professional, detailed, impossible to ignore. But I didn't stop there, because Karen's house was a goldmine of violations once you knew where to look. Her mailbox was painted forest green instead of the approved colonial blue. Violation. She had a decorative wreath on her door that exceeded the maximum allowed diameter by 2 inches. Violation. Her front porch light was LED instead of the mandated incandescent bulb. Violation. Her trash cans were visible from the street on non-collection days. Violation. I documented everything, submitted everything, CC'd the entire HOA board on every single complaint, used Karen's own language, her own bureaucratic tone, her own obsessive attention to detail. I even included helpful photos with measurements and times, because if you're going to be petty, you might as well be thorough. The HOA board, bless their conflict-avoidant hearts, suddenly had a problem. They couldn't ignore my complaints without setting a precedent that rules didn't matter. But they also couldn't enforce them without admitting they'd been ignoring Karen's violations for months while she'd been weaponizing those same rules against everyone else. I watched from my window as she opened it, saw her face cycle through confusion, disbelief, and then pure rage as she realized what was happening. She stormed to every board member's house, made phone calls, sent emails that I'm certain violated several laws regarding harassment and proper use of capital letters. But the rules were the rules, and Karen had spent years making sure everyone knew that rules were sacred. The gnomes had to go. The mailbox had to be repainted. The wreath came down. The porch light was replaced. Every single violation I'd documented got corrected because Karen had left the board no choice. But here's the beautiful part. During all of this, I submitted a formal appeal regarding Biscuit's park ban. Attached witness statements from neighbors confirming he'd never been aggressive. Included vet records showing he was a certified therapy dog. Provided video evidence that the excessive barking complaints coincided with other dogs in the neighborhood, not mine. The board reviewed it, overturned the ban, apologized for the inconvenience. 2 weeks later, I was back at the park with Biscuit. He was doing his usual routine, sniffing grass, napping in shade, living his best quiet life. Karen walked past on the sidewalk, and the look on her face, that mix of frustration and humiliation, and the dawning realization that she'd created the very weapon that took her down. That was worth every minute I'd spent reading those 73 pages of HOA torture. I didn't say anything, didn't need to. Biscuit barked once, a lazy little woof at a passing butterfly. Karen's jaw clenched, but she kept walking, because what was she going to do? Complain. Sometimes justice isn't about revenge. It's about holding up a mirror and making someone see exactly who they've become. Karen wanted to be the HOA police. She got to experience what it felt like to be policed. She wanted to weaponize rules. She got to learn that weapons cut both ways. And me, I got my peaceful park days back. Biscuit got his naps in the sun. And Karen got a valuable lesson in how treating people and their dogs with basic decency costs absolutely nothing but saves everyone a whole lot of paperwork. Now here's my question for you. Have you ever had a Karen try to ruin your life over something petty? Someone who took a small issue and turned it into World War III because they had nothing better to do with their power? Drop your stories in the comments. Let's build a support group for everyone who's ever had to deal with a neighborhood tyrant. And if you enjoyed watching Karen get a taste of her own medicine, smash that like button and subscribe. Because trust me, this nabo. And if you enjoyed watching Karen get a taste of her own medicine, smash that like button and subscribe.